Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm excited to have my client, Jesse Panama, here. He is also a business coach and has been helping me some with my business as well. So it's fun to have us both helping each other. But we have been working together for a little over 6 months on his sleep. So I wanted to bring him on here today to talk about where he was, what he was experiencing, how he was sleeping when he reached out to me, and what his test results showed, the changes he made, his experience in the program, and how he is doing now. So thanks for being here, Jesse.
Pleasure, Martha. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Can you start out by telling us when you first got in touch with me, what was your sleep like?
Awful. I mean, I was pretty desperate. I literally found you by um I think I had Googled insomnia and sleep challenges and all that. I had kind of you know tried all the amateur things you read about online, the sleep hygiene and things of that nature. And maybe you see tiny effects around the margins, but nothing really that significantly moved the needle. So one day while I was out walking and listening to a podcast, as I usually do, I had the epiphany that why don't I actually search podcast library for a podcast about sleep or insomnia? And that's when I found yours and just listened to a couple of episodes. Seemed to be logical to me what you're saying, and so as you know, then I just found your website online and scheduled a consultation, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, right. And you were having more trouble waking up in the night, right? Not as much falling asleep.
That's exactly right. I've actually never had a problem really falling asleep, but I've had a lot of trouble sleeping through the night and not waking up for prolonged stretches. And at the point I reached out to you, it was kind of at a really low point where it was happening, almost maybe not every night, but like several times a week. And there'd just be a cumulative effect, and I'd be kind of dragging through the day, and it was just impacting every part of my life.
Yeah, definitely. So we did some tests, right? And what stood out most for you? What was most important, do you think?
Well, this was a new process for me. I won't give too much of a spoiler alert, but yeah, the tests were a bit intense, but very worthwhile. I mean, I don't think we would have uncovered everything we did had I not done them. Um, and in terms of, I mean, I think you would have more expertise than I would on what we uncovered. But if I kind of put it into broad categories, we made some dietary changes, and then we added some supplements, and I think those are the two main approaches we took based on the results and your analysis of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember seeing like your cortisol was pretty high overall, and some of your hormones, other like sex hormones, were more depleted, and you could use some liver function. What mainly stood out to me though were food sensitivities. So, they showed you were sensitive to gluten and dairy and eggs, and that was a bit tricky for you to want to change. Is that right?
That would be an understatement. No pun intended. I went cold turkey. Although I did not cut turkey out. I think meat was okay, but yeah, gluten and dairy. On your recommendation, I actually cut them out completely for 90 days, um, which was just, uh, yeah, I don't even have the words for it. I've never done that. You don't fully realize just how much almost everything one ingests contains either gluten or dairy. But on the other hand, it is doable. And I found it especially doable when I was just sort of at home and in more of a sort of routine phase in a controlled environment, and controlled what I was eating and drinking. It's a little trickier at restaurants, but um, it's still doable. And especially gluten-free is becoming a bit more mainstream, and some of the restaurants I dined at even had gluten-free menus, or like a GF next to certain dishes. So I'm not going to pretend it was easy, but it's doable. And I just kept telling myself, okay, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days, I can do this. That for me was a big factor, that it was not a lifetime thing. It was not a permanent thing. It was a, concerted effort to make radical changes and hopefully reset my system. So that motivated me to stick with it.
Yeah, you were very committed, which is awesome. So, yeah. And that's a big reason why you're sleeping better now. So, yeah, anything else? Because I definitely recommended supplements, to help with liver function, to help with gut health, to help with mineral balance. So those are a lot of things that most people need, although the specific supplements are different for everyone. So depending on what's going on. But yeah, just tell us what has improved.
I mean, on a macro level, my sleep's improved. It's not perfect. It's not where I ultimately want it to be, but it is certainly light years ahead of where it was several months ago. Um, I I now wake up in the night occasionally, rather than frequently. Um, I sometimes, wake up earlier than I would like to. Um, and so I don't always feel super refreshed. But again, if I look at it on a relative scale, it's significantly better than it used to. There's less of just sort of dragging through the day. And so that's given me reason to be optimistic that it can continue to improve, because so far I've seen an upward trajectory, and I've been able to mostly sustain that even over the last couple of months, where I've done more traveling and kind of gotten out of my routine. It's maybe gone down a little bit, but it hasn't been a disaster. It hasn't bottomed out. And so that's really kind of driven home for me the power of routine and consistency. Which is ironic because I've been an entrepreneur and a world traveler basically my whole life, and not had so much of a routine, but I've come to embrace it on a certain level.
Yeah, right. Well, I think as we get older, we don't adapt as well to that kind of on the fly lifestyle too. So,
This is true. This is true.
yeah. Yeah. And I want to add, because you have been able to add back in the foods that you eliminated for 90 days and your sleep
Mhm.
hasn't deteriorated. So that's good news, right?
I have been, yeah. So I've found myself a little more conscious of what I'm eating. So I have added gluten back in. But at the same time, your voice always echoes in my head a little bit when it comes to gluten, and so I'm a little more selective with the gluten I eat. So rather than just kind of automatically having some bread or whatever it might be, I try to maybe spread it out a little bit more, and sort of maybe like treat pizza or pasta as more of an occasional meal than a frequent thing. And but that being said, yes, I've added it back in. Dairy, same thing. I'm, like one win for me was that I discovered oat milk during those 3 months. I tried almost every milk alternative I could think of, and the only one I really stuck with that I liked, well, it was oat milk. And now I still have oat milk a lot of times. Like I'll put some oat milk in coffee or whatnot, and I'll put almond milk in a smoothie, for example. I don't like almond milk so much by itself or as a creamer, but for a smoothie or like with a bowl of cereal, um, protein cereal, that is, not regular cereal. It works absolutely fine. And so I've kind of stuck with some of those things, but at the same time, if I'm at a restaurant and they give me regular cream, it's fine. If I want an occasional, ice cream or dessert that has dairy, it's fine. So yeah, I've been able to add those things back in, which I'm very pleased about.
Yeah. And that's usually what I recommend. If we can, give your body 90 days to really reset itself, stop that influx of what can be inflammatory foods and work on, restoring gut health, then you're more likely to be able to tolerate those foods in the future and, follow what I call the 80-20 rule, which, tends to, for a lot of us, yes, it's easier to control at home. So at home, we eat really well, and then we go out to eat and might splurge and have that awesome piece of bakery bread or cream in
Yeah,
your coffee or whatever it is. And it's not a big deal. So that's definitely the ultimate goal, is to not have to be so strict forever.
absolutely. And I think that's one reason why we connected so well and why your method resonated with me, because as a business coach and practitioner, I believe in the 80-20 principle myself, and kind of being, intentional and leveraged about your activities, and you usually get an outsized proportion of your results from a minimal proportion of your inputs. And but one of the most powerful lessons I learned from our time together, because I think at the beginning I kind of assessed your approach, and I said something along the lines of, well, Martha, I'm a marketer, and I'm kind of used to testing one variable at a time. And wouldn't it make more sense for me to sort of just eliminate this one thing and then measure the impact, and then that thing, and then that thing, and then that thing. And I remember you said something like, well, yes, you could do that, and maybe it would be more accurate, but it'd take like several years to really do this one by one. Whereas if you're willing to commit to aggressive action for 90 days and just really, really do a blitz in terms of, dietary changes and supplemental changes, like that actually gives you a better chance to kind of reset your system. And so I just decided to, you're the expert, and I'm gonna just go with it and not try to second guess the system. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you've gotten better. Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to add?
I just want to add how grateful I am. I mean, sleep is just so fundamental to life, and I would encourage anyone who's, listening to this and on the fence to really go for it and invest in yourself, invest in your body, and invest in your health. I mean, it's that's really the pillar of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Health is very important. And so is sleep, for sure. So,
Paramount.
all right, great. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, we will be in touch soon.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon.